Could you make a video on all the different MBA programs you were considering and why you chose UNC? Well, yes, random person on YouTube, I will make that video for you. What's up, guys? It is your boy Jerome, back at it with another video. For those of you that are new here, I started off my career as an electrical engineer for about 2 years before going back and getting my MBA from UNC's Kenan-Flagler Business School and then becoming an investment banking associate for about the last year. Going back to business school can be one of the best decisions that you make, but a lot of people don't even try because of this idea of the unknown. What's going to happen? How do I do it? I don't even know how to get started with the process. So let's talk about it. After you guys subscribe to the channel, of course, a lot of people will tell you that the most important thing about figuring out what MBA program you want to go to is the personal fit or the cost of attendance. And while I agree that those two things are important, I think there are a couple things that are a little bit more important. For example, how big and how wide is the alumni network in the specific industry that you want to get into? And number two, in that specific industry, how does the school rank? And a lot of times that ranking is based on job placement rates. How many students are actually getting a job in that industry every single year? You have to remember that not all 10 of the best MBA programs in America are going to have a phenomenal marketing program, tech program, IB program. They're not. So you need to find specific schools that focus on the specific industry that you want to be in. And that's going to be the best way for you to have the best possible opportunity to land your dream job. For example, in 2020, when I went to UNC's Kenan-Flagler Business School, they were ranked number 18th overall for all MBA programs. Not too shabby. But in that same time period that I was at the school, if you looked at their investment banking specific ranking, they were number 10 in the country. That meant UNC had a lot higher chance of placing you in an investment banking job than, say, a marketing job. And that's really important if you want to be an investment banker. Similarly, take a look at Boston College. They have the number 11 finance MBA program in the country, but you look at their overall MBA rankings and they place number 42. Does that mean that you shouldn't apply to Boston College? Absolutely not. It might be a fantastic choice for you if you want to break into the world of finance, especially up in the Northeast. Or if you're a really phenomenal student and you think you've got great chances landing a lot of high-ranking schools, maybe Boston College is a really good, safe choice of school for you to apply to. It's all about that network and what specific opportunities that school can provide you with. Now, for those of you that are more unsure about what you want to do after your MBA, maybe you guys are better off looking at these general, more broad rankings of schools. As for cost of attendance, remember that your MBA is an investment in yourself. Remember, you can always get loans to cover the cost of education, but truthfully, if you're spending $60,000 to say $120,000 on an MBA program and you're only looking at maybe a 10% increase in salary, maybe you're staying at the same job but getting a promotion, or maybe you already have a really high paying job, then you're probably better off just staying at your job or moving to a different firm and kind of using that as leverage to get a higher salary, but maybe not do an MBA program. But if you're looking at more of a 50, 60, 100% increase in your salary from getting your MBA and spending, say, $100,000 on that MBA, that sounds like it's more worth it. You can, of course, go watch my breakdown on my full 1-year salary as an investment banker, but just a quick recap, I went from being an electrical engineer making about $80,000 a year to my salary over doubling, making $175,000 as an investment banking associate. So you can see, am I mad about the fact that I paid $120,000 to over double my salary? Well, yes, of course, because everyone hates student loans. But you can see my point, which is that it allowed me to get a job where I can actually reasonably pay that off in, I don't know, 20 years or something. Let me walk you through the specific schools that I applied to and why I ended up picking UNC. When I was looking to apply for MBA programs, I was going to apply to 5 specific schools. Those were Duke, UNC, NYU, the University of Michigan, and the University of Washington in Seattle. My first qualifier was that I really wanted to go to a top 25 MBA program. And mainly that was just because I didn't know what I wanted to do yet. I didn't know about investment banking. I just knew that I wanted to do something in finance. My next qualifier was location, and so for personal reasons, I really wanted to be in North Carolina, and I was also heavily considering New York for its kind of finance presence in general. So that put top 10 schools, Duke and NYU, at the absolute top of my list. At the time, I also had a huge ego just thinking that I could get into a top 10 MBA program. Plus, I felt like I was doing well for myself, so I definitely wasn't going to quit my job and go back and get an MBA if it wasn't a top 25 school. So really my safe schools were still like mid to low teens in the top 25 rankings. Looking back on that and clearly not taking my own advice from previously in this video, that was a really, really big mistake on my part. UNC was obviously a no-brainer. It was a high teens ranked school and it was in North Carolina where I wanted to be. After that, I've always heard really good things about University of Michigan's Ross Business School, and I thought it'd be just like a cool one to put out there. It was also in the low teens, so that's why that one ended up on my list. And finally, I wanted to put a West Coast school on my list, just in case kind of last second I decided that I wanted to pivot and go do tech or something like that. Coming in at number 23 on the top 25 best MBA programs, University of Washington at Seattle seemed like a pretty good choice because a lot of the California schools were either top 10 or not in the top 25. Once I started actually applying though, I found it pretty difficult to balance my regular 9-to-5 job with all these applications, deadlines, essays. So I ended up not applying to the University of Michigan at all. Things started to get interesting. I started to get rejection letters from the top 10 schools pretty quickly. NYU and Duke both, no interview, formally rejected me pretty early on in that process. UNC, on the other hand, actually gave me an interview for admission, so I traveled to North Carolina to do that in person. While I was there, the interview itself went really well, and I did a small campus tour and honestly pretty quickly just fell in love with that campus and really liked everything about it. Plus, it felt good to know that if I were to go to UNC, I could really have this Duke rivalry, which I was all for now that they'd rejected me, I guess. And eventually they actually did admit me into their program. But before accepting, I was still holding out for University of Washington because I was going to try to use that to negotiate scholarships and that kind of stuff. But to my absolute shock, I got rejected from University of Washington. And technically at this point, I did also put in a last-minute application at the University of Tennessee. I went there for undergrad. I honestly knew for a fact that I would get in, and I was just going to use it as a little bit of leverage to get some scholarships out of UNC. But that's a different story. If you want to hear that story, make sure to put hashtag UTK down below in the comments, and I'll make a video on that. Looking back at it though, I'm actually really glad that the University of Washington rejected me because it almost forced me to go to UNC, and I loved everything about my experience there. I loved the people that I met there. It gave me the opportunity to break into investment banking, which probably wouldn't have happened at Washington, and I'm just so appreciative of that entire opportunity. So to recap, you really need to figure out what you want to do first before you start looking at your schools, and make sure you're looking at the alumni network and the specific industry ranking of the schools that you're applying to. Like I said, don't sleep on the Boston colleges of the world. After all of that, make sure you're considering your cost of attendance and location and all of those sorts of things, because remember, your MBA ultimately is an investment into your future. And I truly believe that it's actually a much bigger investment in yourself than just an undergrad degree. So make sure you choose right, because while it has the opportunity to absolutely change your life, it is only going to do that if you pick the right school. Thank you guys for watching this video. And if you liked it, please make sure to smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, share with your friends for more MBA, investment banking, and finance related content. As always, my name's Jerome, and I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.